Books with Bridgetti is where we bring you the most captivating voices in literature. We're honored to have the USA Today best-selling author Anne Charles with us today in the studio. With her unique blend of humor, mystery, and romance, Anne's books have captivated readers from around the world. So join us today as we dive into the eccentric world of Deadwood and beyond with the master storyteller herself. Authors like you've never heard them before, only on Books with Bridgetti. Don't go away, we will be right back.
Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors and talented indie authors. Buckle up for an unparalleled journey with us. Meet exceptional authors celebrated globally for their captivating narratives. Our authors craft imaginative stories that stay etched in your mind long after the final page. It's not just stories, it's lingering experiences that stay etched in your mind. Our authors share the inspirations that create mesmerizing page-turning stories. Journeys that embody resilience, that turn setbacks into stepping stones, rejections that spark growth, and hurdles that become a catalyst for creativity. From dramas, mysteries, fantasies, children's stories to reality stories, join us as we delve into the inspiration behind the story, discover how authors breathe life into characters, and meticulously craft plots that keep you turning the page. But wait, there's more. We share stories from indie authors as well as Amazon and New York Times best-selling authors. Get ready for an interview that'll have you on the edge of your seat. Stay tuned. Join us only on Books with Bridgetti.
If you've just joined us, welcome to Books with Bridgetti. Our live stream is made possible by StreamYard and BeLive Media. Now, I'm based in Cape Town in South Africa, and I must tell you the Blue Yeti EB3A is my lifesaver. For those of you who know, we have regular power outages here, and the Blue Yeti packs a punch with a 600 watts power and a quick 80% charge in the time it takes you to grab a coffee. It even has a solar recharge, so I have power sustainability wherever I go. Now, today, joining me is going to be Anne Charles, authors like you've never heard them before, only on Books with Bridgetti. And if you've never met the amazing Anne Charles before, she is a USA Today best-selling author, renowned for her humorous, mysterious, and award-winning books. With a background in English and creative writing from the University of Washington in the USA, she crafts tales filled with suspense, romance, and supernatural elements. And beside writing, she juggles family life. She's got an amazing family. I'm going to ask her to share a little bit about how her family is involved in her writing journey. She tells us she also loves arm wrestling with her children, and wrangles her sassy cat. So, without any further ado, let me invite Anne to come and join me on the show.
Hi.
And welcome. I'm so glad to have you back on the show again. And it's always amazing to learn just a little bit more about your journey and what you do and your amazing family that joins you in this unusual journey that you have of being an author. I've got so many questions that I want to ask you today, so I'm going to dive right in. I have no idea if we're going to cover them all, but let's try our best. So I'm going to start with your character creation and word building. In in the Deadwood series, you are renowned for vibrant setting and colorful characters, and that's very evident from just looking at your beautiful covers and they on the background there. How do you approach the process of word building and creating these amazing characters that feel authentic and almost larger than life?
On the world building front, I have it's a lot of work, and I have help. I met a lady long ago. She's a good friend. She came to a book signing. I think I had 2 books out in the Deadwood series, and she was there for another author, and she came over to my empty table. Nobody was in line for me, and she said, "Oh, I've read that book, right there, the second book in your series, and I really love your series. Do you know that you changed eye color on this one character between the first book and the second book?" And I said, no, it's hard to keep track of all that stuff. And she said, I could do that for you. I used to be a school teacher, and I enjoyed this, reading, and I have time to help. If you would like me to, start keeping track of all that, I would be happy to help you. And it was like, oh, I've been hoping this would happen. I've been sending good wishes, and good. I would joke I was sacrificing chickens, not that I was, it's just for the universe to send me someone like this, because any author who writes a series knows it's really hard to keep track of details. And as you continue a series, there gets, so many details. So she started, and her name's Diane Garland, and she still does it today for me, as well as many other authors. Now she has a business doing this. So for those of you who love to, read series, and if this is something you might want to try for an author, there's an opportunity there that, didn't used to be a thing. But anyway, she puts all this stuff together, all the different books, all the plot lines, all the characters with all kinds of details, from eye colors to nicknames to cars or vehicles they drive. And she keeps it all for me in one big OneNote kind of spreadsheet that she adds to all the time. And she'll throw these things at me every now and then, like, do you know you have over, I think it's 600 characters now that you've created? I'm like, no, that's a lot of, and some are very minor. It's just I mentioned the waiter at so-and-so, and I mentioned something specific about him. So she'll keep track of that too, in case I want to pull that back. So, but yeah, that's Your World Keeper is what she does now. So that's been a huge help on that front. And as for the second part of your question, which was making it also vibrant, is that right? Okay, good. I need a little more coffee. You're later in the evening and I'm earlier in the morning. So, one of the things I've recently experienced, and I haven't really talked about this a lot yet anywhere. So my mom passed away a couple months ago, and it really kind of knocked me out of the game for a bit. I thought it wouldn't throw me that much, but it really did. So in the last few weeks, I've really been getting back into writing again. It's finally coming again, and I'm not struggling so much. But what I experienced in that time was this feeling of seeing the scene in front of me, but like I was watching it on TV instead of really getting in there. And I had to have this moment with myself of, talking to myself, saying, you're supposed to be in there with them. You're not supposed to be sitting back here watching. You get in there and you are part of that. You are that character. You need to live that. And that seems really simple, just to think about. But when you've been knocked out of the game a little bit and then you have to get back in, it was a real eye opener of, and it's not just watching a scene. It's okay, let's take this relationship between these two friends. It's not just watching the friends. You are them. You are doing the dialogue. You are in there living that. And so normally that's how it goes for me. I'm in there. I'm part of it. I'm having fun and I'm experiencing it. And if I'm not laughing when I'm writing a funny scene, it's not funny enough. I need to go back through and find that funny spot, that makes it, for those who share my sense of humor, something that's really close in. And the same with the emotional scenes. I have to really be in there. So, I don't know how you do that. It's just something as you write, you get better at, I think, deeper point of view, and feeling like you're right in there with them. But that's a real part of my humor and, the way I write is so that when you read, you also feel like you're right in there with us too. You're standing there, laughing right along with us in the same scene, in the same setting.
My goodness, it's like you've literally anticipated my next question. I was
I
going
read
to
your
ask
mind.
you, humor being such a huge aspect of your writing, um, you weave it into very complex mysteries. So how do you maintain a balance between humor and suspense so that it doesn't overshadow the other?
Mm. Well, in real life, to me, I've had a lot of experience where I mix horror or scary stuff, and finding the humor in it. Um, Not that I go out murdering people and, trying to laugh about it. Um, but for example, when I was a young kid, very young, my brother, who does the cover art for me, um, he would we had to do chores on the farm, and it would be my turn at a very young age to go out to the barn, which was way out there in the dark. We had a night light, but still it was dark, and do my part feeding the cows that evening. And he would say to me, "Okay, it's your turn, but be careful because there's a family of vampires behind the barn that I ran into last week." And, oh, I would be terrified. I mean, I'm talking 6, 7 years old, young kid, it's doing my part, We each had to do our chores, and I would just be so afraid to go out there, but I would have to, and so I would call the dogs, all the dogs, we had a lot of farm dogs, "All of you get over here," and we would go out as a team, the 3 dogs and me, and I would get to the barn and I'd open the small door and I'd send one of them in, or 2 of them, however we'd go, and just, "You go in first," and then I'd close the door and wait and listen. I mean, how cruel. I'm sending the dogs in to their death by monsters. But, I wouldn't hear any barking or anything, of course, and then I'd know it's safe to go in. And I'd have to reach inside the door and reach into the dark and find my way to the light switch, and I'd be so waiting for something to grab my hand and yank me inside, but it was always just the dog sitting there looking at me like, "What's wrong with you? Get in here." Um, but that's you find a way to laugh and face up to that, hard thing, the suspense, whatever you're facing. I've always tried to use a little bit of humor to laugh about it as I go into something that's going to scare, the pants off me. And if it does scare me, then I run and then I'm laughing later, like, "Oh my gosh, look at what that did to me." Um, and so I try to blend that into the story, where I think you can have really good suspense and then break it up with bouts of humor that make it, if you think of it as a roller coaster, the suspense is when you're going down that hill. But then if you do a couple humor twists to lessen the, thrill of the and you add more wee and you mix it together, in the end you have this wonderful roller coaster of a story that people finish the ride and they're like, "Wow, I want to ride that again. I want to get back on and do it all over again." And they go to your next book. So I don't know where that roller coaster whole idea just came out of the blue. But anyway, that's kind of how I put it together.
That's amazing. And talking about blending things, your story often touches on themes that crisscross between identity, resilience, and the supernatural. How do you, um, could you share how these different themes influence your storytelling and the message that you want to convey to your readers?
Well, let's start with the message. From the beginning, I've wanted to always give the readers something to enjoy, to escape with, to laugh about, to scream a little bit and cringe, but to experience all that emotional fun that can come with a story. I've often said I didn't intend to teach necessarily, although I have a lot of historical things I include and weave into the stories, true history, because I like to share that as well and teach you new things about an area or a topic. But in the end, I've always wanted to just give you something to escape and laugh about, have a great time, and go when life is really beating you down with a fly swatter, you grab the story and you go away and you just get into someone else, Violet Parker's world or Claire Morgan's world in the Arizona Jackrabbit series, and just have a good time. So that's always kind of been the underlying message I wanted to get across is that things can be really bad, but friends, family, humor can pull you through, and it's worth trying, another day and waking up again and going at it again. Because I think sometimes we need that, because you wake up and you think, why should I even get out of bed? This is hard. So giving you something to go, well, so and so does it in this story, even though they're getting beaten down. I can do this. I can face the world and find the joy in it. Find something funny. So that's to answer that part of your question. And then you were talking about themes and mixing the humor kind of with the suspense and the more dark aspect. Every book I write, I really do a theme for it, a premise, and I try to attach that to every scene behind the scenes. I don't want you to go, oh, here she listed her theme again, pride or, hard work over laziness. We don't want you to know that, but I want you to feel it when you go through scenes and you see how, they're working at something and building. And I think having different themes per different book or for each book has made a difference, so that when you read the books, I'm working on number 14 in the Deadwood series right now. But my goal since the beginning is each book has its own story and kind of its own feel, based on the fact that it has a different theme than the others. And so we're trying to, hit a mark here with this kind of a theme in this story. Maybe it's more adventure this time. Maybe it's more family this time. Maybe it's more about a love interest this time. In the end, going back to that roller coaster, before I start a new book, I will kind of look at, I've got notes on all the series, what I'm trying to accomplish and the feelings I want to come from it and the themes. And I'll kind of look at them and think, okay, is it time for us to climb another big hill and drop, and go through that feeling? Or is it time to do some spins and twists and have fun that way and give you a different feel as you read book after book after book in the series? So
That's
I'm not sure if I answered you, but
No, you did. That's very interesting. So, for someone who's never read your books and you've written so much, if someone were to read your, say, latest book, would they be completely lost if they didn't read the previous ones in the series?
I try to always do a little bit of background when when you watch a series on television, whether it be a series on Netflix or Amazon or wherever, all the different streaming services, a lot of times they'll do kind of what happened before, and they'll do flash scenes. And sometimes you'll notice you may
Like a
be on,
recap.
yeah, recap. And you may be on episode 9 and you're recapping something from episode 2, and then oh, we're going to touch on that. So they're showing me that little, quick flash of stuff. So I will do something similar to that. In book 14, as I go through and I introduce things, I try to keep in mind some people might be picking this book up new. So I have to give them a little bit more. But then I know some people are reading it after have reading all the others and don't want a long recap. So I work hard to keep my recaps, tight and quick enough that if you haven't read them, you can figure it out, but not enough to drag the story down. And I also know that with 13 books written and you're reading book 14, let's say, you're going to forget things unless you're a super brain. And in that case, you should probably not be just reading books. You should be doing something very beneficial for all of us, right? Using your big brain for something else. But
Absolutely.
but I try to remember, we don't all remember all the details. And sometimes we don't want to go back and read a whole series or listen to the whole series again. So I want to give you just enough to, oh yeah, I remember how this was going. Now, what's happening next? That kind of a feel.
Now, in terms of character complexity, your protagonists, such as Violet Parker and Hank Varney, are multi-dimensional characters with flaws and strengths. How do you approach developing such complex characters? And do you ever find yourself surprised by their actions as you write?
Yes, I think a lot of us authors, we base pieces of characters off us. And I've told people that even the villains, there's a element of me in there. If I were a villain, this is how I might be, or maybe something I've done in the past that I regret, and I show that through a villain. There's if you think about yourself and others that you know well, if you can think objectively, we all have flaws. We all have wonderful things. And we balance that when we build a relationship with someone. You put up with this person that does this because they put up with you, and you do this. But you find the balance and you work through, well, I don't like how that went, but maybe we can work on how I handled the situation or you. So keeping that in mind, when I create these characters, I don't want them to be perfect. I purposely, when I first introduced Violet Parker, I don't describe her as this beautiful, sophisticated woman when her hair is perfect, and this is great. She's got really curly blonde hair, and it sticks out everywhere. She can't manage it. It's out of control. And it really is to represent her character. Her hair and her character are very similar. She can try to smooth them back and be in control, but one good windstorm and everything's, messed up. And so I kind of do that with my characters. I want them to have big hearts and try to fix themselves and try to work on their flaws. And they all do have flaws, like we all do. So putting that idea into a character, not making them. I know so often in movies and in books, the hero and heroine are just utterly gorgeous, perfect. I didn't want that. I didn't want them to be all around, this character that I couldn't even ever be, because I grew up with that, reading Harlequins and a lot of romances of old where they were just amazingly gorgeous people, and I wasn't. And I just always felt like, oh, I could never have that life. I wanted people to read Violet Parker's crazy life, where she has these 2 kids out of wedlock with a guy that left her. He even signed off on the kids, and struggling, and money's tight, and she keeps screwing up, but she keeps trying and getting up and trying. And the same with, in the Undertaker series, where you mentioned Hank Barney, and then there's Clementine, who's a heroine in there, and Boone and Rabbit, who are 2 of the heroes in that. Everybody has their things where they stumble and fall down, but you watch them grow, character growth. And my daughter is the first to point out in shows where there's no character growth and it's flat and she doesn't enjoy it. So she's one of our readers. So boy, my husband, Sam Lucky, and I, we write the Undertaker series together. We're often thinking, is there enough character growth? Because our daughter will find it if there's not. We better make sure.
That's amazing.
We better make sure we hit the mark, because she's one of our first testers, kind of in that way. So I think one of the things I had to learn early on was it was better not to make my heroines perfect. It was better to make them have flaws that I could relate to.
Relatable, yeah.
Yeah, because then we all can say we had bad days where, this happened to us. We had a black eye. We had this happen, and we had to go out in public, and we had to deal with that. And so I think that's really important in characters, is making them more real.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, in addition to your Deadwood series, you also explore different genres with the Jack Rabbit Junction and Digside Mystery archaeology series. What motivates you to venture into new genres, if I could call them that? And how does your approach to writing differ when you explore so many different settings and themes?
I knew early on that I was going to have to mix it up, because I would get bored if I always was writing, just the same series. As much as I love the characters, I think it's important that I step away from that set and those characters, and I move to the different one, so I can explore that different. And with the difference comes, a different set of genre, a different mix of genre. Like, as you said, Deadwood has supernatural, humor, there's romance, there's action adventure, this whole different feel. And then if you step over into the Jackrabbit Junction world, there's still a lot of humor, and a bit of romance. But then we have action, adventure, treasure hunting. There is no supernatural in that series. So it's fun to challenge myself to not have that element and make it, a whole different feel. I always say that's like a rowdy wagon ride kind of through the desert. It's all bouncy and crazy and a lot of stuff going on with villains all over the place. It's so much fun. And then, to go down into the jungle and do the dig sites with archaeology. I always have loved archaeology since I was a kid, and I thought I wanted to be an archaeologist at one point. But then I thought, well, there's just so much writing in archaeology. I don't think I could do that. And now here I sit writing book after book. But, and then Indiana Jones was big when I was a kid. So of course, we all love that adventure. So that was my mix that I get to build my own dig sites. I get to create this whole history for the Maya, culture that happened at this new dig site I just created with temples I get to build. So it's my, I'm over here building like Legos and creating my own little world. So all that it's such a nice thing to get to shift. And then when I work on the books with my husband that are historical 1870s, you have to watch the language you use. You can't just pick up the cell phone in the story. How do they communicate? How did they get that message? There's so much. It's such a different world. It's wonderful to step into that. And you have to be so careful with historicals because people know, oh, you can't have that kind of gun or whatever thing in that story because it wasn't invented till the 1900s, so it makes this whole day after day of, sitting in here and writing stories more fun because I get to go to different worlds.
Awesome. So we're going to take a really quick break and then we're going to switch it up because I want to know a little bit more about your evolution as a writer in your journey. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Introducing Books with Bridgetti, a lineup of industry experts, award-winning authors, and talented indie authors. Books with Bridgetti.
Welcome back. You're watching Books with Bridgetti, and my amazing guest is Anne Charles. Now, Anne, over the course of your illustrious writing career, how has your writing style evolved over the years? And what are some of the lessons that you learned along the way that have had the most significant impact on your writing skills or writing style, if you wish?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me just say, 35 plus books. I can't remember right now what I'm at exactly. That I start a book and I go for the first 5 or 6 chapters. I will go in after I've written a bunch and edited, and then I will go into my husband and say, oh, I'm such a lousy writer. I can't do this. I don't know who wrote all those previous books. I don't know where she found her sense of humor, how she made that funny and did that. And I will just, beat myself down, and he'll say, you do this every time. You just have to keep going. We have this talk with every book. Do you remember?
Giving up is not an option.
Exactly. You just have to keep going and it will feel better as you continue to build. So just to lay that out there, that I don't sit there and start and know this is going to be a bestseller. I start and go, oh boy, I don't know if this is even going to get done and how and what this thing is going to end up like. But what I have learned with book after book is to, as you said, just keep going, because I've done this many times. One time I wrote book 5 in the Deadwood series while we were packing our house to sell and move, 1,000 plus miles away. And I just kept going. And then I would, write my 2,000 words and then go paint and think about what I wrote and then tackle it again the next day. So I used to start with copious notes and everything. I would do character interviews. I would do so many of the things that I've read about and heard about when you start build characters and build a world. And that would help me get going. But I would do these detailed outlines and goal, motivation, conflicts for each character's, even secondary, lined out, and all this kind of stuff. I did amazing notes. And I've learned over time that the purpose of all that work, and I still do that to some degree. I will still do a big outline that's kind of not fleshed out, but it's an outline and it shows me there's a story here. But that's the only purpose of that, because by the first turning point in the story, I'm off in some other, tangent that I never even imagined, because the storyteller took over and said, yeah, the left brain did all this stuff and it looks pretty on the page for the left brain, but I'm here now and I'm going to tell you the story, and yet I've had to learn to trust that storyteller and just say, okay, left brain, we're going to let you do your thing so you feel better about it all, but we're going to let the right brain just take over and write. And that's something that has come with time. Like I said, I still do theme and I still do a premise, and I still try to, I do per chapter, I will do a scene and sequel and kind of do a rough plot of what we're going to introduce in the chapter, what goal or motivation for the character we're working on in this chapter, and how we're building. So it gives me an idea to get going and what I'm trying to hit, But as time has gone on, I've learned to trust the storyteller far more than I ever did in the beginning. And that's just something, some of us start right out of the gate and we're strong storytellers, and I'm envious of those who can do that. But me, I had to work on it. The first book I published was Nearly Departed in Deadwood, and that was in 2011, January. I'd been writing since 1995. So just to show you, it took a long time for me to really understand the craft and how to tell a story and how to bring characters to life and bring a scene to life, and how to show emotion by just scene description, and set up the stage for supernatural or funny or what we were going to do, simply with description on something, or showing characters' emotions, not telling them, and doing all that kind of stuff, not to mention perfecting dialogue. There's so much work that goes into this, that it can take some time to, really learn all that. And I'm always learning new things. I love to challenge myself. Like you said, switching genres. I love to do that and have a new challenge for me, because that makes this exciting. And how am I going to make this? Can I make it work?
All I will say is that if you are a new aspiring author watching this show, there's just so many gems here, right here in this interview, that you need to listen to, because, listening to how you develop your characters and your storylines, and nothing happens by accident. Everything is by design. You seem to plot out every little detail of the process, and I think that's what makes you such a successful author, is because you plan everything meticulously. You write it down, and I think there's a lot of lessons in that. Having interviewed as many authors as I have over the years, the very good authors are people like yourself, who don't just write for the sake of writing, because that's a whole different story.
Right.
If you're a professional writer the way you are, this is what it takes. Your craft takes honing, it takes time, it takes a lot of preparation.
Mm.
Now, having written for such a long time, having built a considerable following in terms of readers, how do you connect with your readers, and does their feedback ever impact your stories or the way that you write?
I would say that their impact is huge, in that I want to make them happy. I want them to enjoy the story. Whether it, if it has some elements that maybe they don't love the villain, for example, but still enjoying the overall experience of, again, this book is a ride, and I want you to finish the ride and be that exciting talk, chatter and having fun and laughing as you walk away and wanting to take that ride again. So it is very important to me, because I do this for a living, how they feel about the story, how they react, how, if they love the characters, if they hate them enough, they love these ones enough, and how they feel. But taking, thinking on that, but then stepping back a moment to say, I still have to write the story that's in my heart. I can't write what they want, because then it's no longer fun for me. Then I'm not enjoying the process. Then I'm a paid writer for a corporation, basically, writing to spec. And that's not what I want to do. I want to share something with you that I hope you'll like. I really do. And if I can't control everybody's emotions. I can't be responsible for how everyone feels about everything, right? But at the same time, I can try to give them an Anne Charles ride again with each book I deliver. And it's important to me that they, get some kind of emotion out of this, and hopefully some positive in some way, and it helps them, experience a growth in whatever way. I do every now and then, I will get an email or some comment where and I think, wow, you just, you know, you just like to, you're having a bad day and you must be just lashing out, so I'm just going to ignore that and move on with my life, because I can't let your bad day make mine a bad day. I do love getting emails and messages on social media where they say, thank you so much. I had such a great time reading this. Or I read it to my mom. She was ill and we enjoyed it together. My dad and I have a great time listening to this audiobook on our road trips. We had so much fun. I've had some wonderful people that they're truck drivers and they listen to it on the road, and it helps them, pass mile after mile. Those kind of messages, of course, they lift me up. They lift us all as authors up, because we're not doing, we're people too. And it hurts when we get, stung. And this is not always easy. It's very lonely, sometimes, and it's very hard. And it takes a lot of determination and perseverance to push through a story and incorporate everything and do this. So their, feedback is important. And I also understand they're people too, just like me. We're all people. And so if somebody reaches out to me privately in an email or a message on social media, I will try to get back to them as soon as I can. Sometimes life slows me down and I have to take care of stuff and then spend some time doing, catching up. But I very much appreciate people that are interacting with me and taking a moment of their busy day to write to me, and they'll say, I'm sorry, I know you're busy. You don't have to write back. Well, I'm sorry. I know you're busy too. You didn't have to write to me in the first place. And I truly appreciate you taking the time to reach out. So I do try to interact, on social media in different ways, email. I haven't been as good the last year. And I think that's, like I said, I've had some parental issues and I did lose my mom. And I found that sometimes I just want to pull away from the world and recuperate and try to regenerate and find, humor in life again. So I've gotten worse at it, but I try, I want to get back in and get going where I'm talking to people more and feeling like they're, interacting with me and hanging out.
Yeah, self-care is very important when life happens, and it happens to the best of us at the worst times, usually.
Right. Yes.
We're going to take a really quick break again. And when we come back, I'd like to talk about your cover design and branding, because that's a huge part of your author journey as well. Welcome back. We're talking to Anne Charles on Books with Bridgetti. Now, Anne, I'm always amazed at your eye-catching covers that often reflect the tone and themes of your stories. How do you collaborate with your cover designer to ensure that the book accurately reflects the essence of the novel?
So, some people already know this, but my cover designer, the artist, is my brother, the one that told me that there were vampires behind the barn. He's always been, since we were kids, he was drawing monsters and other amazing things. And I he came out the womb before me. He took all the art, I always say, the last of it, because my sisters are pretty good too. And all I can draw are stick figures. And even those are pretty sad. So when the time came and I had been trying to get in with the big houses and I was rejected by marketing department because my stories were not set in the big cities. They were set in the middle of America or the USA, and they didn't think there would be an audience. He said, "Hey, I'd like to try my hand at covers if you're going to go it alone and try this." And I said, "Sure, let's see how this goes." And so he started with Nearly Departed to Deadwood, and he drew three different covers for me. And then I loved them all, but then I ended up picking the one that is the current one, just because I felt that it was probably, I liked the purple boots on it, and this was part of the this was before branding was everything. It was always important, but I hadn't really said, I'm going to brand myself with purple boots and make that part of the Anne Charles look. I just, in the story, she gets purple boots. She has purple boots, and I love purple, and I would love purple cowboy boots, is what I was thinking. So let's just have it right there. So he did that, and he drew that, and he has been there as the cover artist since then on pretty much all the books. There's a couple short stories where we've gone with some stock art just because it really kind of matched it. We didn't need as much details, so we could just use that. But yeah, you can see on these ones behind me, that's all his different art. Now, he does it in sometimes a whole scene or sometimes just sections. Like he might draw the sheriff that's on this one and then do the background as another one. Because we have to put words on it. And so I've had a couple different really good cover designers, graphic designers in my past, but by about the eighth book of the Deadwood mystery series, my husband stepped up and said, I think I would love doing that. And he's always been a part of the business. He's just been doing different things, but he said, I think I'd really enjoy doing that. And I'd like to give it a try. So we did. And so now it's the three of us, my husband, my brother, and me. And for each book, we will get together and we will discuss the elements in it and what we want to kind of portray on the cover, what we're trying to get across, the feel, or if we're going for humor more, if we're going for more of a scary feel, if we're going more for adventure. And then we'll throw different ideas at my brother. And then, him being the artist, it's like, okay, you can see things visually in a way that we can't. So how do you see this? And then we let him sit on it for a bit and think about it and sketch some different stuff. And then he'll send us sketches and we'll pick what we like and, narrow it down. And then he'll go all in and then he'll send us the art. He does it on paper. It's not like digital. He does it all by hand. And then, on drawing with colored pencils and whatnot. And then he'll send it to my husband who will scan it all in. And then my husband will take over with the graphic art part and do, put things, just in the right place, make it work, do some other work with color, because when you're looking at something online, it has to pop even more. So you have to put a real brightness to it. So it, even at a thumbnail size, it's going to make you go, oh, what's that? So he works on it. So it's the three of us, coming together with ideas and thoughts and marketing ideas. And I try to think marketing a little bit more too in the way it'll look. And that's how we come up with covers. It's a team effort.
Wow. Now, having multiple series, how do you ensure or maintain brand consistency throughout, but still maintaining the unique identity of each series? Is that kind of what your brother takes care of for you?
Well, we let me just, if I grab these, I can show you quickly, for example, these three different series. So the Arizona series, you can see the skeleton dude, Sam, we call him. And so we always have Sam the skeleton on the covers. and that will tell you at just a glance that this is the Jackrabbit Junction series, because he is on, each book. You can see behind me there's a skeleton, you can see his head as he's caught in a twister. So that is, kind of the branding for this to set it apart. Plus it's kind of fun, the covers are a little bit more humor based, because there is more, a lot more humor, adventure. And then if you look at the Old West series, happening, you can see it feels more like a Western. It has the, we got the bullet holes up there. We've got the old prospector, almost kind of a look, although he's not. And just to give you that feel, and we use a certain font, that's kind of, and then we do the same thing there. So we make it so, if you see this and this kind of font, you're going to be reading an Undertaker book. And then the Deadwood series has evolved a lot, but we always have the purple boots are consistent, and then there's always a weapon that she's using, because she's supernatural. This is the supernatural, where there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So we have a lot of fun, but always, if you see purple boots, that you're reading the Deadwood mystery series. You're in that one. We also do fun little things, like you can see right there, my brother's initials, and then up here is Lucky, my husband's last name. So we did some graffiti on the lockers, and I think, there's AC and SL for Aunt Charles and Sam Lucky. So we just had fun with it, doing that, even though, it's not this series. But so we kind of use different feels and looks and fonts, and then there's always the certain, like, we call this a book, the book ribbon, down there it says Deadwood Mystery Series. So we try to keep that on each book, so you can just pick them up and look at them and go, oh, this is Violet's book, because I can tell because of this, or this is, Clementine and Hank and Boone and Rabbit's book, because of the feel of the Old West, and just enough to separate them off, to give you that definite feel of what you're going into, plus a feel of what's inside. I mean, if you look at this, he's got arrows on his back, a whole arrows. There's a breastplate there for defense. You can kind of get a feel. And as I said, she's swinging a weapon, trying to kill something. So, and the skeleton's smoking a cigar. There's your humor. So anyway, we try to separate it off with little things and stay consistent, but yet mix up those covers enough that if you see them all together, you can tell they're different books. We once, on the Deadwood series, did 2 books in a row that had the blue jeans and the, kind of the same feel, only different stances. And we had problems with confusion on those, people getting them mixed up. And so we knew, okay, we got to really change it up better when we go from book to book, so that they stand out even more from each other.
I think you've done a stellar job in creating a very cohesive brand identity across all the series, but also in helping people to identify each standalone series on their own, so great job with that. Now, in terms of your marketing strategies, what have you found to be the most effective in reaching out and engaging with your audiences? And do you have any unconventional or unexpected marketing tactics that have yielded a more positive result than you expected?
I kind of think of myself as a mad scientist, and I mean, since the beginning, when I knew I was, more or less not going to go with a big publisher, and I was going to have to build, this reader base on my own without a lot of, salespeople support. So from the start, I would take chances and experiment. For example, way back when Kindle, Amazon was new to the game, they just had a limited amount of ebooks. They started their program, Kindle Unlimited, where you could offer a book for free. And it was crazy. Everybody was like, this is so crazy. Why would I put my book out there for free? A good friend of mine who had done it and done well, she talked me into trying it. So I did put Nearly Departed out for free, just trying to grab some new people, thinking, well, how will this work? Boom. I mean, I gave away thousands and thousands of ebooks, and I thought, what did I just do? I just gave away everything. Now nobody's going to buy it because everybody's read it. Well, I already had book 2 out, And so, and book 3 was just about out. So boom, it just started rolling. And I was like, oh, that explosion was a good explosion, right? The lab didn't burn down, and good things came. I had the same type of thing happen when I was following another author. She was a big name author, and she wrote Christian fiction. She opened up to have anybody be a beta reader, and she had a wide open thing. So I thought, well, I'll try that. And again, this was early on in the game. I had like 400 people that signed up to beta read that I didn't know. And I was like, ooh, do I want to do this? This is giving them a new book. It's not even out. What can happen? Bad things can happen. But I went forth and I tried it, and they were so cool. Majority of them turned around and bought the book when it came out because they wanted to support me and help me. And yeah, that can really go south. It could, but it didn't. And so I've had some really good marketing things like that happen over and over through the years because I am willing to try stuff. Now, I don't just jump on the first thing because I call myself a turtle. I just kind of turtle along, and I keep going and I keep trying things, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But I still have beta readers. I still have first draft team. I have all kinds of ways of reaching people. We've been doing BookBub since the very beginning, and BookBub has helped me reach so many people over the years. And I'm still lucky enough to get a BookBub. I figure they're so sick of me. Oh, not Ann Charles again. She's been here since way back, in the beginning. But they still do. They still will give me BookBub, deals every year. So we keep doing that, which helps. But one of the biggest things is I try to just be real with people. I've always tried to just, talk to them. And you can come up to me and talk to me if I'm at a signing or something, and I'm not going to be too busy for you. I'm going to be there. And people are amazing, and everybody has these incredible stories of their lives. And you may think, oh, this person looks really boring. Why do I want to waste my time talking to them? But I can guarantee that every single person has amazing things that have happened, whether they think they're amazing or not. They probably don't. But to me, I'm like, you really have a cousin that does that? That's absolutely crazy. And I'm going to use a little bit of that in a character someday because I love that. And older people especially have so many stories of what they've experienced in life. I love to listen and hear what's going on and some of the things they've experienced. So mainly just trying to be me, just trying to be real, being someone that's just like you, and you're helping me, and I want to help you by giving you a fun story. That's been always the key. I think it's relationship marketing is what they coined that.
I like that phrase.
So it's about having a relationship with your readers. Sometimes I can't have as big as one as I'd like because I have to do this, or this, but I will always try to, be there, talk to you, listen, and enjoy a moment with you if I can. Because I think that's key for creating more stories and for making people making me happy to want to keep doing this.
Wow. So we're just about at the top of the hour, and I can't believe how quickly the time has gone by. It was so much fun talking to you. With the advent of digital platforms and social media, and having been an author over such a long period of time, you've seen how things have evolved and changed. So how has this, digital marketing impacted your approach to how you market your books? And are there any specific strategies that you've implemented that leverages digital marketing better or smarter?
Well, I can tell you, part of me, I'm old school. I'm going to try to figure out how can I make this work in my old school ways, as well as using the new stuff. I have not played with AI yet, artificial intelligence. I can see myself doing that. I just have had a lot of stuff in life going on that have made it hard to get to that. But there's just been so, as you said, there have been so many changes over the years. It's incredible. When I think back to where I started, and I've had authors say, how did you get going? You know, is this something I can do? And I'll say, this is how I did it, but I don't think you can do it this way anymore, because this is the past, and this is how we did it back in 2010 or 2011 or 2012, and then in 2015, everything shifted and we had to do it this way. And, it's really hard to say this is a set way of doing things that will help you, because I kind of feel like, and I know other authors, they'll find a way to do something and it'll be gold for them and it works. And I think maybe that's their genre and their personality. But I have found that I have to play in a little bit of everything, which makes it tough. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I am on TikTok, and I'm really bad at it. It's just every time I think I'm going to start back in on TikTok, something happens with one of my parents and they end up in the hospital. So now I'm a little scared to go on TikTok, because I'm like, am I causing something? But I do think you have to find the thing that works for you, whatever digital, style, whether it's ebook ads, whether it's Facebook ads and just doing ad. I am fortunate to have, these books take place in Deadwood, a bunch of them. And there's a town, Deadwood, and it's based in there. And it's a real place with real people that I love. And it's like my home away from home. And so you can go to Deadwood and the surrounding areas and find my books all over the place. And they will tell people to buy and try these books. They're so much fun. And it's a big tourist area. So people come in all year long to this area. And then they love it there. And they see the books and they buy them. And they read more and more, and then they tell their friends. So, I'm a lot of grassroots at the same time. I have a lot of, marketing things going on that way, where it's just people and word of mouth, because I think that's so important too. But then there's book reviews, and getting my readers are so wonderful. They know I need their help as book reviewers, and they will review books left and right for me and help me get more and more reviews up there on the screen to make people willing to give these a shot and get higher up in the algorithms. So it's really a bunch of stuff that you have to do. I think it's cafeteria style. You have to try this and this and this and what works for you, and make it keep working for you.
Absolutely. Good advice. We are at the top of the hour. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye, but I'm going to ask you if you could leave our aspiring authors with one piece of advice on how to build a strong author brand. What would you say?
Well, pick a brand and stick with it. I know lots of people, you might change your covers, you might change, and I've changed covers, because the first covers of one series wasn't working well. And early on I changed it, but pick something and stick with it. I have purple boots. We have purple boots and a hat for our Western series. And then pick a style of what you want to do and how you're going to do it, and stick with that. You can spread yourself too thin way too easily. But if you build solid, I don't know, trees, whatever forest, if you build solidly in one location and then maybe move to another and build there. I've often thought of it as my own, little world empire with temples like the Maya, and I have this temple over here and this temple, and all these little temples go up around it that are marketing around the Dig Site series and around the Deadwood mystery series. And I just try to not go too thin, but do things consistently over here that I do over there, so people know this is still Anne. She's doing the same thing she does over here. She's just doing it a little differently here, so we know we're still the same. And I don't know if that's making sense, but the main thing is don't go too thin. You can spread yourself too thin way too easily, and then get overwhelmed and then shut down, because it'll stress you out, and you'll be like, that's it, I'm out. I'm going to go work at McDonald's. And I've said that many times. I'll do the drive-through window. That sounds better than this. And the drive-through window would be my least favorite place to be at McDonald's. But, just keep going though. Keep trying. Keep looking for that thing that works for you. So perseverance.
Great advice to close out the show with today. Thank you so much for all your pearls of wisdom. When is your next book out, by the way?
I believe it'll be the end of June, and it's the 5th book in the Undertaker series. So we'll be having more fun in the 1870s with adventures. That's a mix of historical and supernatural. So it's a lot of fun.
Thanks very much, Anne. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's stayed with us for the past hour. We appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out with us. And we'll see you back on the next episode of Books with Bridgetti. Keep reading, friends.
Thanks.